Yo, what's up guys? It's your boy Kenny and I'm back with another video, back with some more small talk. Alright, now today we're going to talk about porn and porn addiction. Now, it's another big topic, right? But we're not trying to shy away from any topics here on this channel. You know, we're trying to attack all the major topics, all the major talking points that play relevance in, you know, a man's life, play relevance, especially in a modern day era, in his journey of self-development and self-growth, right? And from a personal perspective, porn is definitely something that, whilst I wouldn't say I've been an addict, or especially not in recent times, but you know, growing up, especially in school, man, I probably would say, yeah, I was an addict, man. You know what I mean? And definitely seen some negative consequences, you know what I mean, and repercussions from it. So we're going to get into it and talk about it, right, and why it has no place in our journey going forward and trying to be the best version of ourselves. Okay, now what I'm going to say is this, is that for every man there must be a point where he takes self-inventory. Okay, now what I mean by that is he looks at his life, he looks at the habits that he takes on, and looks at those things that are serving him and the things that aren't serving him in his life, right? And the good habits that are taking him forward, he'll keep them and improve on them. But the things that aren't serving him, that are depleting from him, depleting from his purpose, he's got to take them away. He's got to work on them, right, and replace them with better habits. And porn, I believe, is one of those things, right? The thing about porn is that, guys, is that, you know how it is, man, especially if you've watched it, if you can relate, like, it gives you that instant gratification, right, that instant pleasure, and it gives you that temporary release of pleasure, basically, and it gives you that dopamine effect, that quick, you know what I mean, that release of dopamine. And I'm sure you guys know about what dopamine is, but for those that you don't, it's essentially, you know, a chemical that's released in the brain whenever we indulge in certain activities. You know, it could be like indulging in food that we've been craving for a long time, or for, you know, it could be bad food particularly, or, you know what I mean, when we indulge in sex or whatever it is, chemicals are released in our brain, right? And dopamine's released in our brain particularly, and that's basically a feel-good chemical. It makes us feel good, and it's basically responsible for pleasure, essentially, right? So what happens is that when we go and indulge in porn, that dopamine's released in our brain, right? And there's a study called the Coolidge effect. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it. Actually, one of my friends put me onto it, actually, and it's basically how scientists have studied that, like, you know, when we experience new things, when we experience like a novelty in our life, an extra spark of dopamine is released in our brain, right? And we can get addicted to that new experience, that new release of dopamine, right? Think about it like when we get a new car, you know, or, you know, we eat something that we like, or something new that's pleasurable. We want that continual experience, and porn basically provides that on a continual basis. Whenever we go onto the porn site, it's a new girl, it's a new experience, you know, and the brain can't really differentiate between reality and porn, okay? And what it's also doing is basically telling the brain that, you know, it wants more and more and more, right? And one thing about these kind of habits, you know what I mean, whether it be porn, whether it be masturbation, whether it be just sex addiction and compulsive sex, alcohol, you know, smoking, all these things, the brain can never really be satisfied with the amount that is previously indulged in, right? So not only does it require more, but it requires more in more quantities. And that's where you can get into a dangerous cycle of just continually doing this thing, you know, until it just drains you and drains your energy. And that goes into my other point, is that, guys, watching porn drains your energy. Not only does it drain your time, precious time that you could be used into doing other things that will benefit you, but it drains your sexual energy, guys. And this is kind of linked to, actually directly linked to, my previous video on semen retention. And one thing I'm learning is the art of sexual transmutation. And if you guys haven't heard of it before, I urge you to research it. And it's essentially the idea that Well, firstly, let me say this, that sexual energy is probably the most powerful, one of the most powerful forces and energies out here in this experience, in this life, okay? And as a man, we have the power to basically use that sexual energy in a positive or a negative way, okay? We can channel it in certain ways. And if you can channel transmute your sexual energy that you would have been using into maybe compulsive sex, sleeping around too much, porn, masturbation, indulging in that too much, you can transfer and transmute that into other areas of your life, right? You can use that same energy, drive yourself and start business. You can use that same energy and put it into the gym and to get yourself in shape, right? Or investing in knowledge, investing in your mind, you know, cultivating habits that are making you better. You know what I mean? And listen, very, very few people know about this. Too many people, too many men out here are just ejaculating their seed away, you know, releasing all their life force, not knowing why they don't have any energy to go out and conquer, to go out and reach their goals. Too many people are wasting their energy on these things, on porn, on masturbation, and it has an effect, right? So if you're one of those people that you don't seem to have the energy in life, it could be one of these things. Okay, so bear that in mind. If you take these things away, you're going to start having more energy, right? And that's another thing too, guys, is that when you stop these things, you ascend to a higher level of consciousness, okay? These kind of destructive habits that people engage in, they inhibit the ability to independently think. You got to think that when you're doing these things, you're basically a slave to a destructive habit, right? Whatever it is. So you're thinking that you're feeling good, right? It's releasing, you're giving you some good pleasure. But actually, the more and more you do it, the more and more you're enslaved to this thing. The more and more this thing has power over you, right? And now, the less and less you can think independently, the less you can think clearly. I can't tell you, bro, like when I cut these things, you know, and it was a process. It was a process. It wasn't just drastic, like, you know what I mean? It's always a process. But when I was starting to cut these things from my life and filter my energy, filter the things that I watched, I listened to, you know what I mean? The things that are engaged on the internet, I started thinking more clearly. I was able to add more to conversations than people. I was able to notice patterns and, you know, just things in society that other people weren't able to notice. I was able to think with clarity in terms of a purpose, have a defined purpose in my life. And I was able to actualize plans and materialize plans a lot more easy in my life because the garbage was being taken away, right? I was filtering my system, I was filtering my energy and my spiritual energy, you know, and I was only letting good things come into my system. And that includes what I'd eat and what I drink. Okay, guys? So listen, man, we got to be mindful that these things have a spill-on effect, right? It's not just about, are you watching it, busting a nut, and then that's it, you feel good. There's a consequence to these things, right? And if we don't know, if no one has told us, we're just going to keep on going through life drifting and aimlessly, all right? We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that, okay? Another point is this, guys, is that watching porn is going to give you a very, very unrealistic view on women. It's going to give you an unrealistic view on sex. And if you're in a relationship, or even if you just want to improve your interaction with women, cutting porn is going to help with that, right? It's going to help with that big time, right? Studies have shown as well, and like, bro, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've had experience with this in the past where it's like you're just desensitized. You're completely desensitized to what a real woman looks like, or what a real woman is. You know what I mean? These girls that are on the porn websites, guys, girls aren't, that's not reality. You know what I mean? That's not reality. Porn is basically fiction, and it plays on your emotion and it messes with your mind, okay? And it causes all kinds of things, erectile dysfunction, you know what I mean, anxiety, and all that kind of stuff. And that's all linked to, you know, all these negative things. One last point I want to touch on is how you feel about yourself, guys. I can't tell you, it's probably one of the biggest points, is that when you stop watching porn, when you stop doing these destructive habits that, you know, you can't do out in the open, that you're doing behind closed doors. You start feeling better about yourself. Your self-esteem starts to improve. You start having a higher self-worth because you know that you're basically resisting. You know that you're taking control and power back over your life, right? You're not letting these things enslave you. So you feel better about yourself instantly. And when you go out there, you're going to be more attractive. You're going to attract more people into your life and more things, right? Girls are going to notice, guys, that testosterone that you would have been releasing through your ejaculate and through all this, you know, energy that you're putting into watching porn, you're going to retain that. You're going to keep that. And girls are going to smell it. Subconsciously, they're going to realize and sense the extra testosterone, all right? So you want more attraction from girls, one way is to stop watching porn, all right? So yeah, man, listen, let me know what you think about this video. If I haven't touched on anything, I can do so in the future. You know what I mean? I hope it helped you. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, man, the marathon continues, guys. Listen, let's try and stop watching porn and masturbating. Right? These things drain our energy. They deplete our sense of self-worth. And essentially, they have no place. You know what I mean? They have no place. They have been in our journey, but they don't have to be going forward. All right, guys, so stay safe. I hope you like this video and hit me up. Peace.